Hello, and welcome to the Pam and Peggy Show. I'm Pam Wagner. Peggy's away, but today we have a very exciting show dedicated to Remembrance Day. With me today is Lawrence Gordon. Lawrence had a remarkable adventure returning his uncle, who had been missing in action, returning the remains after 70 years. Can you tell us a little about this story of this World War II story, Lawrence?
Certainly. My uncle had been a Canadian born at East End, Saskatchewan, who had enlisted with the U.S. military after Pearl Harbor. He had been sent to France and was killed in action on August 13th, 1944. The family didn't know that his body was missing, and I had made a commitment to my father to visit his grave at some time in the future. In 2000, I had written to the U.S. military asking where he was buried. They sent back a form that led me to believe that he was interred at the Brittany American Cemetery in St. James, France. So I went there in May of 2000 and found that there wasn't a grave. There was just his name inscribed on the wall of the missing.
Wow.
At that stage, I didn't think I was ever going to find him, and I thought he was buried as one of the unknown American soldiers in the Brittany American Cemetery. But in March of 2012, I got a surprise phone call. A filmmaker and journalist from Madison, Wisconsin named Jed Henry phoned me. His grandfather, David Henry, had been in the same reconnaissance company with my Uncle Lawrence, and when Jed's grandfather passed away, Jed decided that he would do a film for the family so that they could see where the troops had fought during World War II. So he had gone to France, and at that time he had discovered that 44 of the reconnaissance company had been killed in action, and they had recovered 43 of the bodies. The only one missing was Uncle Lawrence. So he teamed up with a French historian who had done most of the research on the troop movements in France to try and locate Uncle Lawrence's remains. And he went to the military records offices in St. Louis, and when he was searching their records, he found the letter that I had written, and of course that gave him my letterhead, my phone number. His biggest challenge was getting past my receptionist who played goaltender on that one. It took him a couple of tries to get to me, but that started our relationship, which turned out to be a very good one.
Right. And so it ended, I guess the story isn't really over, but you were able to work through, I understand, a lot of red tape, a lot of obstacles, but then many people from different countries helped and came together, and resulting in the funeral just in August 13th.
Yes, it was basically 30 months from start to finish for us to locate him, and we did bring him back to East End and have him buried on August 13th this year, which was the 70th anniversary of his death. It was an interesting story in the sense that he was a Canadian. He actually had dual citizenship, but he had been born in Canada, chose to fight with the Americans, was killed in France. The Americans mistakenly identified him as being a German, turned his remains over to the Germans. He was interred in a German cemetery, then he was moved to an ossuary at Wien-sur-Mer 51 years ago, and he's been there for the last 51 years. We finally tracked him down and had him positively identified by the French National Crime Lab. They did DNA testing. And of course, nothing's easy in Europe. It took a French court order to extract the DNA and do the testing. The Germans had control of the remains, so we had to deal with their Volksbund to obtain permission to even do the testing. So it's been quite a process. We've had a great deal of cooperation from France and Germany, and that in itself is a remarkable aspect of the story. The two countries were fighting a war against each other 70 years ago, and now they were bending over backwards, helping each other and us to identify his remains.
Right. There was a lot of national, international coverage of this story. and and of the funeral, I know the CBC coverage. One of the U.S. There was a contingency of U.S. vets who accompanied the entourage through the U.S.
There was. When we brought the remains home from France on June the 10th this year, we landed in Chicago, and the remains were then driven to Madison, Wisconsin, where forensic anthropologists and odontologists did examinations of the remains. Then we brought them home. Every mile of the way in the United States, he's been escorted by the Patriot Guard, which is vets who donate their time to simply accompany remains on motorcycles. There was a second group involved, and they're the retired Vietnam vets, the Marines, and their group is called Rolling Thunder, or Run for the Wall is their traditional run. Once a year they go across the United States from California to Washington, D.C. to bring attention to the fact that there are many missing in action Marines whose remains are still in Vietnam. This group organized 52 riders that came, and I was looking this morning, they came from 12 different states. They came from California, Texas, Oklahoma, Montana, Colorado. There were people there from Madison, Wisconsin. There was a person from Idaho that was in that group. They were from all over the United States. And then for the funeral, we had people from 5 different countries. There were people from France, Germany, the United States, Canada, and Great Britain who were at the funeral. So it truly had an international flavor.
Yes, and I was fortunate to be there, and what an amazing experience to see that the emotion of all those people bringing home one of their own, as one of the veterans so eloquently put it, and return to the family plot, to the overlooking East End, Saskatchewan. And it was a long journey for your Uncle Lawrence, who left as a young man.
He did. He was 28 years old when he was killed in action, and the funeral was great. I mean, you sang a song at it. Colum McConville from Northern Ireland had written a song dedicated to Uncle Lawrence and sang it. Brad Neubauer sang a song, all of which made it very personal and meaningful. One of the most touching moments was when the 52 people from the retired Marines, the Run from the Wall contingent, announced they had to leave, and they got a spontaneous standing ovation from all the other people there. So that was very touching.
Quite a remarkable coming together. One of the things that was very touching, some of the displays that were at the funeral, your Uncle Lawrence's photograph, a replica of his uniform, but the actual wallet that was sent home to his mother, your grandmother.
That's correct.
Yeah, and can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the wallet was a key bit of the evidence. The United States, when they buried a World War II vet and he was unidentified, buried him in an X grave, and the temporary cemetery that was very close to where Uncle Lawrence was killed was in an area called Goron, and I've visited it twice. It's now a very productive agricultural field. This year it's seeded to barley, last year was corn, but they buried them as X files. Uncle Lawrence was X3 ultimately. When we got the records, X1 had been identified. X2 was a fellow named James Bowman, who was the gunner that was standing in the turret beside Uncle Lawrence at the time he was killed. And X4 and 5 had been identified. X6 was unidentified. The U.S. had tried to associate Uncle Lawrence with X6, but when we received the personnel files relating to X3 and X6, the remains of X6 consisted of just a pelvis. And the wallet, which you have seen, has a fair amount of it left. There are 3 pictures in it that are readily identifiable. They were taken in front of the a building that's still owned by the family. It's where his father, I'm sorry, had homesteaded. It's taken with his girlfriend Nancy Lacey, his mother, 3 of my older siblings. But the interesting part about it is there were no written words that identified the wallet as belonging to Lawrence S. Gordon, and yet somehow they managed to get it home to the family.
It's such a fascinating story. We could just, there's so many details. We'll have to learn more about this. I think the remarkable thing is that your family was brought together, the community was brought together in this event to honor one of their own, and for everyone who is looking at this many years after World War II, that there was such cooperation, and international cooperation is it's pretty a hopeful idea, I think.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. The United States individuals were fantastic. We had difficulty with the government and didn't get any cooperation from them. But the individuals, as we moved his remains through the United States and back to Canada, treated him the same way they would have treated someone who had been killed in Afghanistan last week. So there was absolutely no lack of compassion, caring, and support from individuals. They were tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. Sadly, wars seem to continue on and on and on. But for those families who were left without the closure of bringing the remains home, even after all these years, there's something important about that for a family.
There certainly is. It's a question of just knowing, and I believe it's being said that you can often judge a society on how it treats its dead, and I think that that's an accurate statement, and certainly the respect that was shown for Uncle Lawrence by people in the United States and Canada was very moving.
Absolutely.
And of course, I shouldn't leave out Germany and France. When we were in France, the Germans did a ceremony that transferred stewardship of his remains to me personally, and it was done at Wien-sur-Mer, and it was a very, very well done ceremony.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Lawrence, for taking time today to talk to us about that. And I know that it's going to be a story. There's going to be a documentary. I know you were talking to somebody who's writing a book about it. Maybe a Hollywood movie.
It's I know that Sean Propick, the former CBC radio correspondent that many of your watchers will be familiar with, is doing a book, and he's working on that now.
Wow. Well, right here in Medicine Hat, just a remarkable story. Watch for this. There'll be more to come, I'm sure, Lawrence, as the book and the documentary. After the break, we're going to have a little bit more in our tribute to Remembrance Day with Bruce Shepard from the Medicine Hat Esplanade Museum. Thank you. Stay tuned.